Alright, now that we have designed all of our different view holders, so we have a view pager, grid, and the other recycler view. Now we have this page done, so we have to set up the fragments for each of the buttons down here. So what we're going to do is we're going to make the search fragment, make the profile fragment as well, and then we're also going to make a home fragment and take out the design from this activity and put it into the fragment, and then load all the fragments when we click the buttons. We won't design the page yet, that will be done in the next part, but we would handle like fragments and how to make the buttons click into each other. So let's get into that. Alright, we know we need 4 fragments, so I'm going to come over here, right click on that, new package, and I'm going to name this fragments, and then we're going to create 4 of our fragments. There's different ways you can make fragments. You can just make the Java class and then its corresponding layout file, but I usually just like to just make it directly from here. Yeah, so I'll just write here home fragment, finish that. Time it's gonna load up. Alright, that's done. We make the next one. And this would be search fragment. Finish that. Alright, another way you can just make a fragment is you can right click on this new Java class, and we can call this chat fragment, and then it's going to extend fragment. So Android X fragment app, click OK. So we have this. So now we just put our empty constructor. So alt insert constructor, select fragment. So we have our empty constructor, and then we now also have our on create view right there. So, and then we make a layout for that fragment. So we come here, right click, new layout resource, and it will pop up. So then we call this fragment chat, click OK. Oh, I forgot to set it right there, but we have to make this frame layout, and then in here we want to inflate this layout onto this fragment, just like it does it over here in this onCreate view. So we want to return this inflator. This is technically what we're putting in. So what we're saying is return. We already have the inflator from up here, so we're just saying inflator dot inflate, and then that our layout that we have dot fragment chat, we want to put it into the container as its parent, and attach it would be false. And this is pretty much it. You have your next fragment. So then we'll create the final fragment, which is a profile fragment. I'll just make it this way, profile fragment. Finish. The reason why it's kind of okay to make it the way we did before is because now I have to go through all of this, my new fragments, cleaning it up, because we don't need all these extra things. For what we're going to do is pretty straightforward. So we have to like take out a lot of these, all the way down here, delete that, select all the way up here, delete that, select all this, delete, select all this, delete. I'll just take this out too, I'm not gonna use it. Let's see, select all this, all the way here, delete, select all this, delete, delete, select all of this, and delete. Just do the same for all of these. Delete, select on create, all the way up there, delete, select all this, delete, and select all this, and delete. So we need to put a public right there. So tab that in, enter, And yeah, we have all our fragments done. There we go. So all the fragments that comes with it would have hello blank fragment, and you would have this to do here, which saves over here. You can see all the to do that you have to do. Fragment home, you need to update the layouts, all of that is set over here. So on the fragment profile you have to do, it says update blank fragment. You can set up to other to-dos, whatever. You can set it up here. You can say like, oh, change the style, and it would update down here as well. So you can use that to kind of organize your code if you want. But I don't need all these, so I'll just take that out. In our home fragments right here, what we want is this our main app activity. So let's close all these other things. I'm middle clicking to close it that fast. So in this main right here, right, load up, come on. Right, we want this design to be inside of the home fragment, not in the main page anymore. And then we just want to call this fragment layout into this page. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy all this. I could just control A. I don't know why I did that. Select all of this here and paste it in. We need to get rid of the context. That's over here. We don't need this context. We don't need this. It's already called at the top. We don't need this. And we don't need this. This too. We don't need that as well. Control Alt L, organize your code, and we have the fragment set up and ready to, you know, accept stuff. This one we would just change it, take out everything except the parent layout, so the relative layout. Take out the toolbar as well because the toolbar is in that frame layout inside of our home fragment, and just add a frame layout. And the width would match parent, and it would have an ID of, let's just call it fragment holder, like so. So we have this giant fragment holder in our main activity. Oh, whoops, I also took out my bottom toolbar, which I wasn't supposed to take out. So let's take our bottom navbar right here, copy that out, and put that in here, like so. So we have our bottom navbar, and then we have our frame layout. Alright, this is at the bottom of the page, and this is ready for coding. So if we go into our activity, main app activity, then we can go all the way, top books, new books. All of this would now move into the fragment, so we'll set that up later. So right now, setting up the bottom navbar click. So we would say private void navbar menus. So just do that, and then we call out navbar. Did I call it yet? View pager, not yet. So private bottom navigation view, and we call this navigation view, like so. And then we will call that over here, navigation view is equal to find by ID, r.id slash nav view. So we'll go back over there. It has no ID. Let's give it an ID of nav view. ID nav view. So now it's here, and now we want to say nav view. So navigation view dot set on navigation item on item set on navigation item selected new on item. There we go. Right, so we need to set on navigation item selected listener, and then we can put a new what's this called, new on navigation item that I don't know how to read, whatever, just do that. And then we now have a switch case for each of the items ID. So item dot get item ID, and then we set up cases for all of them. So the first case would be if we click home, and this ID is r.id dot home. So this is, where is that? In our menu, we need to get our ID. Bottom nav view, ID is home. So r.id dot home, like so. And let's just break for now, and we just do the same for all of them. ID dot search break r.id dot chat break, and then the final one r.id profile and break. Right, so whenever we click, and then we need to call this in here, so we would say Navbar menu. This is called over here. So whenever we click any of those things, whatever we put inside here is what's going to run. So what we want to do is open up the different fragments when we click on it. So loading fragments. This is where we handle private void load fragment. This is where we will handle loading up the fragments. Since we have multiple fragments, I would pass in a argument. So fragment. There we go. And we need a fragment manager. So fragment manager equal to get support fragment manager right there. And then we also need to have a name. Let's just call this manager. And then fragment transaction is gonna be equal to manager dot begin transaction right here. Oh, again, I keep forgetting to give it a name. There we go. What's going on? Required fragment transaction found. Fragment transaction. There we go. It's the wrong version. And then here is where we would take the home. Take the holder fragment and replace it with the new fragment. So we're going to say transaction dot replace, and then what do we want to replace? Our holding fragment, which is here. This holding fragment right here is what we want to replace. So we're going to say r dot is an ID and fragment holder right there, and then we want to replace it with the fragment, and then we say transaction dot commit, and that should do it. This should be what would load our different fragments. But whenever we open the application, we want to load the home fragment, so we would just have this load home fragment, and then we would say private void load home fragments, like so, and then we'd open this up. So we would just call our load fragment, which takes in a fragment, and then we would just say new home fragment, like that. So what it's doing is just doing all this, but it's going to load the home one, and then we can call that when this begins. So after the nav view is set up, then we load home fragment like that. Set title home. There's no reason for all of this. There's no reason for that. And that should work. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take all of this functional code out of the main activity and put it into the home fragments class. So over here, we want to put all this data thing. So new books, top books, cut that out, come over here, put that there. Okay, it's not going to find a lot of these, so we would do that later. Highlighted books, select all of this. Oh, I should just copy that too. Yeah. Select all that, copy that, and paste that over there. Select OK. In the main app, we don't need view pager, grid view, or recycler view. So all of this, copy that. We don't need this too. And we pass that up here, like so. And then we need to initialize it. So private void initialize. Now in a fragment, you can't just call find item by ID, because it has its own view. We need to get that view out of the fragment, for example. I don't know if that's a good way of explaining it. So I'm just going to say view is going to be equal to what this is inflating right here. So we'll copy that. Oh, I forgot the I. So just put the I there myself. and then we would return that view, right? So we have that covered, and then for us to get anything from this fragment, we need to call view dot whatever. So we need to pass that view, and now we can call all of this. So highlighted is now equal to view dot, right? Something like that. So I would come back over here to where I've set everything up, cut that out, come here so I don't have to type it again, and paste that. So we don't need the toolbar. Here's find view by ID does not work, so we can just pass view dot, and then I'll just copy this. Whoops, it took over. View dot, there we go. So copy that and paste it for all of them. There we go. And now we initialize down here before the return and pass in the view. And then inside of this init, we want to call highlighted books. We want to call top books, and we also want to call new books, like so. I have one extra. Whoops. All right, we can't use this in Fragment, so we need to get the context. So this dot get context. This dot get context because it's a fragment, and this dot get context as well. So that should fix all of that. And this is done. You don't need to be called anymore. So whenever we start this application, it's going to load the home fragment. And if we click on the home button, let's just see if this works. So let's make a toast dot make text, and then we're going to put it here, and then we're going to say home button. Oh no, home. And then let's just make this short. So dot short, and then dot show, like so. What's missing? Cannot resolve. Oh, this. All right. So I have to say main app. The context is not there. There we go. Copy this, and in the search we do the same thing. Oh, whoops, misclicked. In the search we do the same thing. In the chat we do the same thing, and in the profile we'll do the same thing. We just change what they say. So this one would say, what am I writing? Profile, chat, and search. So when I run this, hopefully what would happen is that it's going to call our navbar menu, which is over here. So the click functions would work, and then it would load our home fragment, which means it's replacing this view, this frame right here, with everything inside of this. So technically we should have the same page we had, just the buttons would work as intended. So I'm just going to run that now, and we'll be back when it starts up. Alright, the virtual machine is loaded, and here we have our home. If we click on this, it says home. If we click on search, it says search. We click on chat, it says chat, and if we click on profile, it says profile. And right now it's loaded the fragment for us for this home. So in the next part, what we're going to do is we're going to make the fragments for search, for chat, and for profile. We'll just design it, we won't add any functionality, and then the part following up, we'll see how that goes. So see you then.